The San Francisco State University emblem on a white background with black text reading Paul K. Longmore Institute on Disability.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Emily Badix. I'm waiting for interpreters. Yep, we're good. I'm the co-director of Superfest and associate director at the Longmore Institute on Disability at San Francisco State University. Today I'm wearing a sort of loud, flowery top. I have my hair in a high bun, and I'm a white woman with a blue wall behind me with some of my children's homeschooling work up on display. I hope you all enjoyed the films that we've just shown, and last night's film as well, if you joined us. These films took us to a range of places and stories and really exemplify the spirit of what Superfest is all about. Some notes before we start. Next slide, please. For stream text captioning, please visit tinyurl.com/superfestcaptions, but you can also use the captions in Zoom as well. To react to the panelists, converse with other attendees, and ask questions for our panel, please use the Q&A box. We're using this in place of the chat box for access. I want to remind everyone that we added in another screening tonight of the God-Given Talent, which will play without audio description in case there were folks who were unable to join us last night because of our tech mayhem that involved merging the non-audio description and the audio description rooms, which we again apologize for. So we'll be offering that screening at 5 p.m. Pacific time today, 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you're at all confused, we can help get you the link through the Q&A or any other sort of tech problems. Please feel free to use the Q&A or reach out to the Superfest email that you would have received. Final slide, please. This has all of our panelists' information. Please engage with folks. Use the hashtag Superfest2020 to chime in with this conversation on Twitter. And I'm not going to repeat all these names here because they are in the frequently asked questions document and they've been emailed, but please feel free to learn more about these folks. I'm so grateful to all of them for spending some of their afternoon/late evening with us, depending on where they are coming from. Now I would like to invite Al-Mohamed to join us and turn on her mic and unmute. Day, I can't believe it has only been a year since we've known Day. We met her at last year at Superfest when we shared her film, and we're so blown away by all of her contributions to the panel that we kind of begged her to come back and join us for this year's Superfest. We're very grateful, Day, that you'll be moderating this discussion today. Thank you so much.
I am super excited. And trust me, this panel is an amazing group of stars, and I cannot wait to share them with all of you guys out there watching. So I guess this would be the chance to get in. So thanks, Emily. So we have some great folks. Hopefully you guys got a chance to watch the show early on. So my name is Dael Muhammad. I'm an Arab American woman with dark hair, brown skin. Background is like everybody. You try to be fancy, and you have a bookcase behind me. I have a black button shirt, and for tonight, especially, I have a lovely velvet vest that I have dressed up for tonight because guess what? It's Superfest. And we have an amazing group of panelists. Like I said, I'm going to keep squeeing over this all night, so I hope you're going to be excited too. And I'm going to ask each of them to kind of introduce themselves a little bit real quick and a little bit of their background, just super fast, so you get a feel for who they are. And I'm going to start with my beloved Alice Wong.
Oh, Dee. I am so excited because I just want to say up front that I'm friends with Dave. We go way back, and it is just a delight to always be in community with Dave. Hey everyone, my name is Alice Wong. I am not a filmmaker, but a long-time fan of Superfest. I'm somebody who lives in San Francisco. And Superfest, year after year, it's always been the highlight of my fall. I've attended many festivals And it's always an amazing time to see the Bay Area disability community gather together for culture. And this year, it's amazing too that here we are sharing it with the entire world. So a lot of kudos to everyone at the Longmore Institute and for organizing this event. It's going to be growing pains, right? It's not easy. We're in uncharted waters, but it's amazing because we're beating this moment. So I guess I'm just gonna say I'm an Asian American disabled woman. I'm wearing a camouflage print hoodie because I feel like one day dressed up, I'm gonna be more streetwear and keep it real, keep it cash. I have dark black hair that's short. There's a mask over my nose attached to a tube, which is connected to a ventilator. So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. Next up, I actually just met him, but my goodness. So is Garry Robson, and he is actually the narrator for The Secret Life of Tom Lightfoot, which you just saw. And that man's voice is like butter. So Garry, if you could just tell us a little bit about you and give us an image description of yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that lovely introduction. A voice like butter. I love it. Excuse me. Yeah, my name's Garry Robson. I'm an actor, writer, and director. I'm a white male. I'm wearing a kind of off-white, I guess, cream roll neck jumper because I live in Scotland and it's cold over here at this time of night. So I've got a roll neck sweater on. And yeah, I'm an actor, writer, director. I'm lit by a very sexy pool of light, just showing my head, I think, and that's about it. And I'm in a wheelchair. I have curated a number of deaf and disability art film festivals as part of being artistic director of several major international deaf and disability arts festivals. So that's my main sort of interest, work I've done in film. I also work for as an assessor for the Film Hub Scotland, which is part of the BFI, the British Film Institute. And my job really is to push small independent theatres to think a lot more, think much harder about access, and not also in terms of the sort of films they're showing as well, to focus a little bit more on independent films, particularly films that tell the stories of deaf and disabled people, and also to make their cinemas more accessible. Pleasure to be here, and I look forward to your questions. Dae, thanks very much.
All right. Thanks so much. And next up, since it seems like a good connection, is Ray Jacobs, who was the writer and director of The Secret Life of Tom Lightfoot. And I'm like, I just love your film. Just had to get that out here now first. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Ray?
Hi there. My name's Ray Jacobs. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, just to clarify, I directed The Secret Life of Tom Lightfoot. And I also work week in and week out with some of the performers that you see in that film. I'm a white male. I am in my 50s. I've got brown hair, which is slowly turning grey. And I'm in my slightly scruffy office at home. So I work with Artie Party, who are a neurodiverse, highly skilled group of performers. I also work a lot in dance and work with an inclusive dance company here in Shropshire in England.
Fantastic. Awesome. And last but not least, we have Jade White. So I hope I get your last name right, because I keep referring to you as Flying Jade. So
yes, yeah, my name is Jade White. I'm the subject of Flying Jade. I'm a professional circus artist and aerial dancer. So my image description, I have short black bangs and a short black bob. I've got brown skin, brown eyes, and I'm wearing a black vest with a white background behind me. I'm a performance artist, and I'm currently in grad school for performance art in Chicago School of the Art Institute. But I'm joining you today from Texas, where I am currently.
Fantastic. All right. So let's get into it. I have so many questions and so many things I just want to ask you guys, because the films that you made were just amazing and allowed a lot of depth and some things that I think that what an audience sees and what somebody intends are always different, and it's the engagement between the filmmaker and the audience that is where that connection is made. And one of the things I'd love to kind of get talk about a little bit is there's and then I'm probably going to start with you, Jade, is there's an honesty and a vulnerability in your film where you just kind of lay it all out there, about yourself, about your life, and about understanding a diagnosis. And I'm wondering about that journey and kind of what prompted you to even put that in a film, because like you said, there's a vulnerability in doing that.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So for me, it felt like a huge sigh of relief to make this film, actually. My diagnosis was not something I shared with most people in my friendship group, or even my family members didn't know about it for a very long time. Not because I was trying to hide it, but because I didn't feel like I was welcome to share it in any way that was significant. And so Catherine, the director, came to see me in Vietnam and make this. She wanted to make a film about me joining the Vietnamese circus, because that's already very cool. And then she told me that she would be interested in documenting more of my personal life, because she's one of my close friends, and she knew about my diagnosis already, and she was there during the time where I was hospitalized. And when she said that she wanted to make that, I was completely on board immediately. It felt like it was the time for me to speak my truth, and I want to live authentically, and I want to share these things so that others can, be inspired and grow, and encourage them to, keep going even through hard struggles.
It's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and I know, Ray, you've talked a little about some of the things about the birth of your ideas and how we share that with other people. And I'm wondering if you could just kind of comment as well.
So we meet as a group on a Friday, and during our time together, an incredible amount of stories are born, really, as we improvise and play, and are there and then they've gone, and some really resound and stay. The story of Tom Lightfoot is also very much about the story of the actor Graham. As well as spending time together making theatre in the studio, we also tour together. We go to discos together, and we share a lot of our experiences about life. And so there's things in common with the groups. Stories resound. So, for instance, Graham did come to a session once saying that he was seeing a doctor about his heart. And I myself have a genetic heart condition. And so there was something which resounded there. And also Graham recently danced in a film in the middle of a forest where he was really dancing like a bird. So a lot of all these ideas came together, including, being in the studio, people making stories in small groups, and this image of opening the arms and the birds coming out of the chest, coming out in one of them stories. So it feels to us like things that we really want to make and create are a bit like storms, and it takes a few things to all happen at once for a strong story to happen. And that's what happened with The Secret Life of Tom Lightfoot.
I like that, the idea of it being kind of that kind of group effort and how it kind of works together. Because I think you'd mentioned that you work with Artie Party, and it actually is part of a theater troupe, and so that shift in connection to film is not it's almost an easy slide because of that, right?
Yeah, it often feels we call the group story makers, and it does feel like when a big idea comes up, then it's, well, how can we share this with an audience? So we've made animations, you know, we've made performances, we've made site-specific work. So it's just finding the right material for each story.
I love that. One of the neat things I think that you'd mentioned before, and I think for many of us who watch films that are connected to disability in some way, is that historically it's almost been extractive. Like a filmmaker will come in and they'll look at folks with disabilities and they'll take the stories and make it their own story, and it's like we have no part in that. And I think one of the unique things about your film in many ways is that it's not that at all. Like you said, Graham had a big part in that, and obviously that's one of the key elements. I think that's what you do. And what do you think kind of starts that, and how do you kind of encourage more folks to do that kind of collaborative work, really, because that seems to be something that doesn't tend to happen with disability?
I mean, for me, I suppose it's an awful lot about, you know, a long-term, building up a long-term relationship between you all, between the performers, between the director. So it's something that is growing and shifting over time. I mean, I also think there is a lot of good work where, you know, that's starting to happen a lot more. And I think, I mean, the film industry can also be very sort of set in its ways in terms of everybody's job descriptions and the compartmentalizing. And I myself do wish, you know, that things could open out a lot more. So, you know, so it could be accepted of people working in all kinds of different ways. Well, I haven't got a solution.
No, but like I said, I think you have an example. I think is created in some ways. And I guess I might ask this over to Jade as well, because that's again the same kind of question for you, because like I said, it's something that's very personal and very intimate. You know, how do you find a way to retain control of what is in parts your story?
Yeah, so like I said, the filmmaker, Catherine Sweetman, we're friends and we've been friends for a long time. So that was really easy to work with her. I think if it was a different director, I would not have been able to be so vulnerable or so open with my story. I think it would have been very challenging. But of course, she made me feel comfortable, and then she also let me watch everything and review everything and have like final say and veto power in case something felt uncomfortable. But I didn't have to really veto anything. It's pretty raw. It's just exactly what it is. And yeah, I feel good about putting it out there that way. I feel like I did get to have a lot of say in my own story. So I'm happy with it in that way.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, like I said, that tends to be one of those things that pops up. And this is where I go. I'm going to poke at you, Alice, because I know you've been an advocate and someone who's talked about representation in media and who tells the stories. And I'd love to get your take on the idea of that, who tells the stories and you know, what makes these films so amazing in that respect. You know, and then how does that connect with the rest of the industry and reflect on that? Big question.
Oh yeah, just thanks a lot, Dae. So I'm gonna do my best. I do want to say that I think as somebody who's attended a lot of different film festivals and just am an overall kind of lover of disability media culture, I think, you know, I do have to say I'm very biased that Superfest has been really, I think, on the most cutting edge in terms of raising the bar on accessibility, but also about how they select and curate this festival every year. I want to give a lot of props to the juries and their choices, because I find something always new and unexpected. There's so many, I think, international perspectives, which is incredibly important, because disability culture is so vast and nuanced and incredibly diverse, and there may be people that may not even say the word disability or identify, but yet we are part of every community, and I think these kind of festivals remind us about how much more that's out there that we just don't know about. And I think there's another aspect which I really admire about Superfest is selecting work that's very oftentimes is by disabled creators. So whether I love the cat cameo, it's like right on cue. So whether it's disabled filmmakers, writers, actors, producers, but I do think that Superfest does really showcase work by disabled people, not just starring disabled people. And I think that's part of the larger systemic conversation we need to have about representation, but also about the systemic issues of why there aren't more disabled people in filmmaking. And you yourself, as a filmmaker, probably have a lot of thoughts on this. But I guess I just want to share how I thought today's showcase, if there is kind of 2 or 3 impressions, if I could just share that right now, I would say that there's just incredible joy, and incredible pleasure, and humor in a lot of these films. And I just love the fact that so many of these films were about creative expression, whether it was through music, dance, performance, skateboarding. There's just such a joy. And I think, my goodness, I mean, for this year, we have been through so many things, not just in the United States, but globally with this pandemic, and so much, instability and insecurity right now, that we really need to embrace the joy and pleasure that we experience in our everyday lives. So this to me was a real balm, and I feel like there were so many brilliant ways to tell stories in this showcase that were non-verbal, that were just didn't require any spoken word. And I thought that was also really brilliant too, that there's just so many ways to tell stories that may include captions, may just use music, facial expressions, sign language. I think is just a wonderful example of going beyond the typical narrative. So I think that's all I'm going to share for now. And thank you for asking.
No problem. So I'm going to actually bounce to Garry now, because I think one of the things that has fascinated me, actually, both of these films use voiceover narration. And I know you said that's one of the things that actually you do for a lot of films in the UK. And I guess I'm kind of curious, is that something that we see more people with disabilities doing? Is it something that nobody thinks of? Is it something that you're working to grow? I think I'm just fascinated by that one element of kind of the work that you do. And also, like I said, it was so impactful in both of these films. And I'm just wondering, as somebody who does that, if you could just, I don't know, tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, sure. Dave. It's something that's happening a lot more at the moment to do with COVID, really, because actors have been forced to stay at home like everybody else, and theaters are closed. So the first thing that we were advising people to do was to sort themselves out some audio stuff at home so they could continue doing recordings, at least from home. And there's been quite a bit of take up. Now, I mean, the thing with being a deaf or disabled performer in the UK is that although things are getting better in terms of moving into the mainstream industry, they're still pretty slow. And certain things kind of supercharge them, really. And this, curiously enough, has been one of these things that supercharged them, because it's challenged the idea that, you know, in order to do a voiceover, you need to get a train down to London, go to a voice studio in Soho and go up several flights of stairs and do the recording. You know, it's sort of saying, well, no, you don't have to do that. You know, people can do it at home with relatively inexpensive outlay, and you know, so it's changed. We kind of hope that, you know, one of the things I've been involved in recently is an art exhibition called Not Going Back to Normal, because I think what we don't want to do is go back to normal, because there was a degree of shall we say prejudice, really, in using disabled performers, because of the idea, well, they're problematical, you know, they're difficult, you've got to make all these adjustments, you know, and all this sort of stuff. Not everybody. There's some wonderful theatres in the UK that are dealing with that, and some wonderful filmmakers as well, you know. But I wouldn't say that that deaf disabled performers do a lot of voiceovers, but it's something that's certainly increasing, you know. I mean, I did this for Ray because I've known Ray for a long time, and I've worked with Artie Party in the past, and I love his work. I think it's absolutely brilliant, you know. And I think one of the things that you see from Ray's filmmaking is I kind of think of it as long form filmmaking, really, because he understands that to meet the ends that he wants to achieve, he has to choose his methods accordingly. And he, you know, and I think his films, they need to be rooted in the people whose stories he's telling. But to do that with neurodiverse people takes time. You know, it's not the sort of thing you get the money to make a film. You say, well, we've got a 2-week deadline. We've got to go in and film and shoot it and all the rest of it, you know. Ray makes films that totally reflect the people whose stories he's trying to tell. And that's, for me, is one of the key things about deaf and disability film anyway, is kind of seizing our stories, really, and telling them in ways that we want to tell them. Because we have such an interesting and perspective on the world, and it's a perspective that needs to be shared more and more. You know, we have a very interesting way of looking at the world. We're, you know, a lot of us are marginalized, pushed to the outside. And if you want to find out about a society, talk to those who are pushed to the margins, because they'll tell you very interesting things. You know, so there you go. There's a long answer to that question.
That is perfect. I want the long answers. So,
okay, that's good. That's good.
There we go. So one of the things I always like after watching a film, right? There are moments where we go, "Oh my God, that was amazing," or you know, or "Whew, that was a powerful moment." I think what I would love to hear, and I'm gonna slide over to Jade here, is if you could share with us actually a scene that was particularly meaningful for you in the film, and maybe tell us a little bit about, you know, why that was.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And
So
Ray, get you and Garry for that as well. So
sounds
yeah,
good.
sorry.
Yeah, for me, yeah, living in Vietnam was already a very crazy, exciting experience. So many of the things that were captured in this film are just like wonderful moments in my life, which is really great. But for me, performing live is really such a beautiful and powerful experience every time I do it. So actually seeing the footage that Catherine shot and seeing the final performance work was very cathartic for me, because you don't get to see yourself when you are yourself, obviously. But seeing yourself from the outside is like this great kind of validation, like, yeah, all my hard work really paid off, and there was a product here at the end that I can now see and not just feel what it's like to be inside of that moment. So it was really wonderful to have that, because I worked really hard with this project in the circus. So that for me is, I could watch it again and again. I really like it.
That last performance at the circus, or I guess day one.
Yeah, day one. I mean, obviously, like then I went on to perform it more than 60 times. So, but having that particular footage from like the opening day is really special to me. Like it's just like the best gift I could ever be given, actually, to see that. So it
Awesome.
means a lot.
So one of the neat things, just I'm going to catch it right here. I love the out, almost the analog created between, like, the flying of the highs and then being underwater with the lows. And I wonder if you just tell us a little more about that kind of journey and how that parallel, with the film, with your life actually, and the connection between the two. But mostly I'm just going, oh, I just want to know a little more because that was just really amazing. So
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty challenging to depict visually what a depressive episode looks like or a manic episode looks like, or what it feels like to be inside of those spaces. So we talked a lot about it, actually, like how are we going to, portray this visually? And so I kind of just started, Catherine just kind of asked me, like, what in depression, like what is that? And I described it kind of as like a heaviness, like an inability to breathe, a tightness in the chest, panic, fear, but mostly like this overwhelming heaviness that just sinks you as low as you can imagine. So water, basically being underwater was a really good visual translation for that. And we just filmed that in a pool with a black sheet and then we did some after magic. But and then for the manic highs, it's even more challenging. Like, how do you show what it's like to feel like on fire, like you're talking really fast and you're super excited and maybe things are like chaotic and out of control. And so we used some visuals of me spinning for that in the beginning, and just try to represent like the chaos, the feeling of just like excitement and like a hot pleasure and flying and freedom. So I'm glad those like translated in an interesting way for you.
awesome, thank you. So Ray, actually, I'd love to get your take on, like, are there any particular scenes or moments where you go, this is it, this is the moment I was looking to make, and just tell us a little bit more about the making of it.
Okay. Well, it's funny because in the studio, which is all about your imagination, there's something like birds coming out of somebody's chest. You kind of almost like take it for granted. Yeah, that's fine. That would be a great image. And then you have to look at, well, how will that look? And how will we create something like that? So that process of going from a kind of imaginative assumption to something which other people can really see, was really, I mean, it was really great to see the finished article. I think we began with an idea of almost like a door, and then through chatting as a group, we had the idea of the tattoo which the birds would come out of. So for me, seeing that moment on the film, I suppose resonates with my own heart. But also, as part of making that image, we had 2 trained starlings who were wonderful, who the bird trainer had them since they fledged. They were rescued. So they were about 13 years old, and they made tons of journeys from Graham to different parts of the studio. And it was just fantastic working with the actor Graham and seeing him with the starlings. It was really nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So, Mr. Robson, how about you? What would be the moment that was the one that really caught you in the film?
Hello. Yeah, in Ray's film. Gosh, I like so much of it. Really, I guess it is the birds coming out. I kind of like the. I love the kind of the telephone place. The kind of we answer every question, because.
Yes.
You know, I absolutely adored that, because one of the things I guess we're trying to do with some of these films is to say, you know, hey, we're just people, you know, we're just kind of people, and we do all sorts of things. And just because we've got a label that's, they call us neurodiverse or learning disabled or whatever they want to call us, you know, that somehow that's it. That's our full story. And of course, it's not. You know, all of us deaf and disabled people are people, you know, and we have our stories, we have our loves, our hates, our worries, our cares, you know, and we also do things like work in call centers, and you know, and that, and I think it's kind of, it's also shifting people's stereotype perceptions of what people can do, and that's a wonderful moment, because it says, yeah, why can't these people work in a call center that makes the ridiculous claim we can answer every question? You know, why not? You know, it's beautiful. And that these people go to the pub for a drink afterwards, and that these people like music, and that these people fall in love, and these people, you know, fall out of love. You know, I think that's, and that scene for me, it says all that. I think it's absolutely great. I really do. I was speaking just to Jade's film. I kind of I love the storytelling in that film. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It kept me gripped. You know, I wanted to know what happened next. Did Jade succeed, and all the rest of it? But what I particularly loved about that, and I said to her early on, was I love the backstage stuff. I'm a sucker for seeing how things come together in theatre and in film. And it was so lovely to see the dressing rooms in the circus. And many years ago, one of the first shows I ever made was called The Last Freak Show, and we toured it in a big top with the, and we worked with a lot of circus guys and women, and that was one of the most accepted times I think I ever felt as a disabled man in artists' company, or in a theatre group's company, was these people who worked in circus, because I found them, they were just very accepting of people. They took people on their own merits. Because, you know, they know a lot of people who have fallen off things or broken this or broken that, you know, and just seem to be very easygoing about it. So, yeah, so just to say that I loved that bit about Jade's film as well. I loved seeing all that backstage stuff. I thought it was really exciting.
Fantastic. Yeah, I have to admit, I love the call center. It is one of my favorite moments. One of the neat things I always like about Superfest is a lot of times we have films that incorporate disability, but you also have a very strong disability audience, and there are like the insider outsider things, and I always look at that going, I know what you're doing there. And it's very much one of those insider moment
absolutely
things.
Absolutely, that's great.
That was great. So Alice, I'm gonna poke at you a little bit. And I'd love to know if you have any things about, I guess, kind of the backstage things or moments that catch your attention in film.
Well, I think if we could talk about just what we saw today specifically with the Superfest, I think some of the things that I really loved from these films, I know that we talked already did this panel about Flying Jade and the secret life of Tom Lightfoot, but I would say, you know, React was just a gorgeous short piece with just music where the performer was such a natural part of the organic part of the natural landscape. And just the way it was shot, it was so beautiful. Like that to me just highlighted how, you know, in many ways, like I feel even though disabled people are still marginalized and othered, you know, that piece was just almost a meditation on how ingrained we are in the natural world, you know, without having to say that, you know, there's just a beautiful way of just presenting that as is. And I really love just, you know, the comedy out of Sweet Solace. You know, the fact that, I don't know if it's a spoiler alert for people, but just the fact that, first of all, there were two Black characters kind of at a battle royale And, just like, just very, just, having fun with different genres, right? Just like a Wild West. And then there was this, kung fu or like ninja style action. But the fact that at the very end, you see the person who was the musician who's deaf. And like there's this like another twist on the comedy because the two blind people were just leaving with the musician, and then they had no idea that this person was deaf. And it's just like there's just so many kind of inter-community connections, which I thought was really nice too, because I think for a lot of films that are out there, they're much more available to mainstream. We see disabled people oftentimes as either the sidekick or maybe even as the main character, but oftentimes not with other disabled people.
Yeah.
I think that to me is really what we need more of, not just more of us together, but also more of us like across disability. I think that to me is really powerful to see. It's something that we need to see more of.
Absolutely. There's a great quote by one of my favorite comic writers. His name's Dwayne McDuffie. He died a few years ago, and he was a Black comic writer. There's just not very many of them, and he wrote a variety of things. But he'd say it's okay if you write one Black character. They might even let you get away with 2 Black characters. But the moment you put 3 Black characters in a comic, they'll go, "Oh, well, that's a Black comic." And he talked about the hypocrisy around that, and it's the fact that we do spend time with each other. We do have a community. We are interconnected with each other, and so this thing in kind of mainstream film where you just have one is unrealistic, and that expectation of, well, if you have lots of people with disabilities, it must be a disability film is the same thing that McDuffie talked about, and I think it's just a fantastic example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and if I could just comment on one other aspect that we need more of is frankly more queer disabled love stories.
Yes.
Or just queer disabled rom-coms. I mean, I really did appreciate the film Indementicable. Indementicable. INDIMENTICABILE. That was part of the showcase today, the film from Italy. Now, one thing I did appreciate about it is that it does center on a disabled woman's pleasure, which is really still like, we've seen so many movies about, frankly, that I'm really tired of like white disabled men in wheelchairs trying to get laid. Like we've been there, we've done that. I think we can move on, we can move forward.
Is this where you say we want to get laid too? That's it.
Everyone's
getting laid.
But anybody who wants to get laid, they should get laid. And we all have a right to pleasure, whatever form that takes, right? But I do think that was nice to see that female pleasure was centered, and rightly so. But I do think, what if this was a queer story? I think that's, I'm here for all of that, and I think, there's just room for it. And I think also if there is such a message to send to Hollywood or just, the mainstream media, is that, let's not underestimate what the audience wants. I think, the audiences can handle diversity. Audiences want diversity. They want all kinds of complicated. They can handle complicated stories. I feel like that's another thing too, that, let's not be afraid. Let's take risks. And, disabled people are risk takers, especially artists. And I think that's what we really need more of.
Fantastic. And I love the way that, because that leads me easily into my next question, because I'm like, we just had some great examples, and we're talking about that need, and we're talking about the fact that mainstream media doesn't see it. So I guess my next question goes back to almost like Ray and Garry, which is, what's next? So what's next for you guys? I would love to hear. And I don't know which of you would like to go first on that front.
Should I pop in?
By all
Did
means.
you say? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, it's great. I was loving listening to the last speaker there. That was terrific, Alice. Yeah, because I once I was asked to take over a theatre company in Glasgow with a guy called Robert Softly, and we kind of and they wanted to change their direction, a disability-led theatre company. And we kind of said, oh, what should we make the first play? It's got to be a real impact. And we said, well, what don't they expect disabled people to do? And well, firstly, they don't expect us to be funny. And secondly, they don't expect us to have sex. So we'll make a sex comedy, which we did. And it was a huge hit. It was fantastic. So there's a moral there somehow. I mean, I loved
Everybody does want to watch sex, and everybody wants to watch comedies. So
everyone's funny and sex, don't they? Really, and if you can get funny sex as well, it's even better. And this was very funny sex. So I loved Unforgettable. I thought it was brilliant, just for its daring. You know, I've seen a couple of films about a profoundly disabled man taken to a prostitute to get laid, etc. But I'd never seen it from a woman's perspective before, and I thought it was a tremendous piece of work. I really do. For me, next is because of COVID, it's scrambling around for work really. So I've just got a radio show coming out. So where a radio play, which I play a nasty British politician, which is very easy to find many role models to base my character on. You didn't have to try very hard to do that. And I'm going to be filmed doing a Christmas story for one of the theatres in Edinburgh as well. But my next voiceover is for Ray again, I hope, when he completes one of the other films. So get a move on, Ray, because I need the money, and I love doing it as well for your films.
Ooh, and that's a great handoff. So Ray, what's next for you?
Okay. Well, you might have noticed at the very beginning of the film, it says Secret Lives production. So we have been working with a science fiction writer, Jeff Vandermeer, who's based in New York, and he created a little book called Secret Lives. So he really kindly gave us permission to adapt some of the stories in the Secret Lives book. So we've made two films. One was very much from his story, and the other one was The Secret Life of Tom Lightfoot, which we feel is quite influenced, you know, by some of his stories. So we've got a third one, which was just about to be filmed literally 2 days after lockdown happened in the UK. So we're kind of raring to go and to get out and film, but of course we're going to have to be patient on that. In the meantime, after a whole summer of working on Zoom, we've had about 4 sessions in the studio over the last month, which has been, you know, really exciting, real relief to work together properly again. And so we'll also see what comes from the sessions that we're having during this time.
Fantastic. Yeah, Jeff Vandermeer is an amazing and very well-known award-winning science fiction writer here. So if folks haven't read him, please do. And now it means, oh my gosh, I am totally cannot wait for the rest of the whole series now, because I love Jeff's work, and I'm like, oh, that's the connection. And so now it makes sense, and I absolutely, it's brilliant. So I'll really be looking forward to that, Ray.
Great.
Excellent. So Jade, I'm going to cheat, and I actually have two.
The voiceovers are incredible as well. I'll just point that out. So they really are good.
Awesome. So Jade, I'm going to cheat. I have 2 questions for you. So, one, is it's one of the things because I'll admit I've started as I'm a documentary filmmaker. So one of the and yours is kind of a very personal documentary. One of the key things about any documentary is there's always a really great story that didn't make it into the film. And I'd love if you could share with us one of those stories.
Ooh, behind the scenes type situation.
It's an intimate small group of us here at Superfest, you know, across the internet.
Yeah, just a, you know, a quaint little cozy group of friends. Well, so the thing that's really fun that happened actually after the circus debuted in Ho Chi Minh City is we went on tour. We got to tour through all of Vietnam after that with that show of international performers. So we went to all kinds of different cities, beach cities and kind of mountain cities. And we went to Ha Long Bay, which is one of the most beautiful places in Vietnam. So getting to go and tour with the circus was insane. And I wish we could have kept Catherine on board for that too, because it was really interesting to see not only like very famous popular cities in Vietnam, but also like lesser known cities that I would not have stopped on my own. And some of our crowds were up to 5,000 people.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was massive and really fun and just gorgeous the whole time. But it was hard for me mentally, like with my disability, because I don't speak Vietnamese fluently and there was no one to talk to. So there was like actually quite a lot of drama also internally inside of Jade. But yeah, it was a beautiful experience, stressful and beautiful.
Awesome. And then that second question, what's next for you?
Oh, for me. So I won't be performing for 5,000 people anytime soon, at least not in America. Yeah, I'm in grad school currently. I'm going to School of the Art Institute of Chicago for my master's in performance art. And my big challenge currently is how do I translate my live performance work into stunning films? That's what I'm working on. So finding ways to express myself with video is a new challenge for me.
Yeah, that is great because it's that difference between, and I bet Ray's or it too, the idea of when you have like theater or a live performance where you have that audience and that energy that goes back and forth. And then when you try to shift it to film is how do you capture some of that same energy when you don't have an audience that you play to and do you catch the moment. So that's going to be fun. So I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Looking at time, I know that there are probably some amazing audience questions that are much better than mine. So I'm going to pass it off to Emily to be able to help share some of those audience questions.
Thank you, Dae, and thank you, everyone. This panel is really exciting. Somebody asked, this question would be for Ray. Why didn't the audio description on Secret Lives of Tom Lightfoot mention the visible disability or Down syndrome of the actors?
Okay, so Emily kind of warned me that this question was coming up just before panel, and I thought, I'm sure it does. So I quickly got the document up, I got the script up, and it wasn't there. And you know, I've been thinking about it a lot, and so I'm really glad you asked that question because I think it's quite important that it is there. And I think it kind of also opens up a lot of questions around kind of descriptions, particularly of performers that might have more invisible disabilities as well, and how we all do describe that. But very huge thanks for pointing it out. And one of my jobs next week now is to get that changed. Okay.
Yeah, access is a process. We at Superfest have certainly learned, a few things and had a rich conversation last night about how we could have done much better to support the filmmaker's audio description. And but I think there's something kind of beautiful about it being missed because it's so central to the story for you. Although it's incredibly important to mention.
yeah, I kind of like, when I was thinking about it, you know, like there is that thing in terms of, because I was writing it, to me, you know, I'm just seeing them as the actors of Graham, of Chloe and Andrew. And so I need that other person looking through and checking through. Thank you.
Yeah, well, sorry we didn't catch it. We should have as well. We have another question, a great question from Mark, who said, has the success of Crip Camp at Sundance given other disability filmmakers an opening to show their work beyond Superfest? Does anybody want to speak to that? I'm actually, Dae, I'd also love to hear your thoughts on that as a disability filmmaker yourself. We shared a little bit of information in the Q&A about your film as well, because people are excited to learn more.
I am happy to pop in. Sorry, I end up fighting with my phone a little bit here. I think we are at a unique time period that there is definitely a greater interest in more diverse films and more diverse film creators. And so that interest is sparked. And I think Crip Camp has opened the door more. It's up to us to really start pushing through, saying, yes, there's more of us here and we want to tell our own stories. Because we also see, while there's that interest in more stories about disability, one of those first questions is about how it's been extractive in the past. And because of that interest in diversity, there's always the thing that there will be filmmakers coming who want to tell our stories. And I think the thing is, I think the opportunity is here and for folks to leap. And granted, I don't want to be dismissive. It is difficult and it is hard, and filmmaking is an expensive and collaborative thing that requires a team of folks working together. But I think we can do it, and I think it's an opportunity. And I know that every one of the folks on the panel, and actually a lot of the folks at Superfest are out there making movies, and I want to see them be able to succeed, in part because of that greater interest. So my answer in short would be yes.
Another audience member. Yeah,
go
ahead, please, Garry.
Just to say that there's a film being made in the UK at the moment, which is about the development of DAN, Disability Action Network, in the UK, and it's focusing on the 2 disabled people who set that up. And it was something that led to changes in legislation in the UK, and also the development really of deaf and disability art, because it was a lot of the deaf and disability art in the 60s, when this was all going on, 60s, 70s, was based around sort of agitprop cabarets and such like. So that's a film that's being made as we speak, really. So I think there's certainly an interest in, well, how should I put it, disability history, more so, and understanding that we've been around for a long time and have done some pretty amazing things. So just to throw that in, but I agree, I think, with Dae, really, that there are opportunities, particularly as streaming is just the way most people are accessing films at the minute. So there is more room for a range of films reaching a whole range of people that they wouldn't normally have reached. And possibly, I can't remember when Crip Camp came out, but possibly Crip Camp might be a beneficiary of that. That it's probably not something that a general audience would have ever gone along to see, but they might have picked up via Netflix.
Dae, do you have one last lightning round question for our panelists to wrap up?
So actually, just the easy thing would be, because I think you've already said it, which is where to find you. And a recommendation, actually, that you're saying, all right, guys, I want you to go see this. And whether it's your work or someone else's work, a rising tide lifts all boats, and we are all connected into communities. So mine would be, so share us how we can get in touch with you, how we can see your films again, because yes, I would like to see them again. And also, if there's something else you'd like to share with us, whether it's a past work or even a little bit about your next piece, that's what I want. I want more. And I can pick. Sorry, and I can pick on. Let me start with Alice, actually.
Okay, and I'll just keep it brief. People want to find me. They can go to my website, Disability Visibility Projects.com, where I have a podcast, and there's oodles and oodles of guest essays and interviews by people like Dave. So check it out. And I do think that there's one, speaking of Netflix, this is not promoted, this is not sponsored in any way, but there is a series called Away. So it's all about space travel. And I watched it thinking, oh, this is about, space travel, it's about Mars. But there was a lot of disability representation in this series that completely surprised me. There are multiple disabled characters, multiple actual disabled actors, and I was just really surprisingly delighted by it. So if you want to check out a TV show with a pretty decent disabled storylines, check out Away. That's available on Netflix. So thanks for asking, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks, Alice. How about you, Ray?
Okay. The best way to find out about other showings of Secret Lives films, we've got a Facebook page, which is called The Cabinet of Secret Lives. And what we'll try and update that with any opportunities to watch the films online. I also wanted to add that as part of the project, as I just said, the Cabinet of Secret Lives, we've actually made an antiques cabinet, which tours to festivals, and you open doors on the cabinet and see little loops and clips of the films actually in the cabinet. And just wanted to mention a film that that I think the festival goers would really love. I don't know if Superfest has shown it before. The Sanctuary, which is a fantastic ensemble film performed by neurodiverse performers, feature film. So try and Google that and see if you can find a way of seeing The Sanctuary. I think it might be on Amazon Prime. Okay.
Awesome. Jade?
Hi. Okay. My light is quite low now. Yeah, so you can find more screenings of High Flying Jade coming up. You can take a look at highflyingjadefilm.com. And personally for me, our online performance work as of late. So I'm also a drag king. I do drag. I do like other circus things. So if you want to see any of that kind of work, you can always find me on Instagram under High Flying Jade.
Excellent. And last but not least, Garry.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. That's great. Yeah, well, a couple of things really. Find me on Twitter, and I'm on @JaneJanes, Jane Janes, @JaneJanes, and then you'll find out what I'm kind of doing in the future and stuff like that. But I'd really recommend, I guess some of you might have seen this already, is Matt Fraser's Crypt Tales, which BBC America has made. So I'd really recommend having a wee look at those. And just finally, just to say, a real kind of superstar, if you will, of the UK disability arts movement, a dancer called David Tulle, died yesterday, sadly. He was in his 50s, but died sort of young. A wonderful, wonderful dancer. So I would check out David's work with DV8. It's just absolutely astonishing dance work. If you like dance, check out David's work with DV8, and it's on YouTube. He's one of the founder members of Kanduko and all sorts of stuff. So he's a lovely guy. So I'd also like to wish Dave well wherever he is. He was a great lover of bubbles. I'm sure he's got bottles of bubbles wherever he is, and he's supping away at them. So yeah, so bon voyage, Dave. And thanks for having me. It's been a real joy. Been really enjoyable. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, everybody. You've been an amazing panel, and I love what you were able to share with all of us. Thank you, all of you out there, for joining us as a part of Superfest and this panel. And hopefully we will see you tomorrow for another day of some fantastic disability cinema. So check out these artists, check out these panels, check out these films, and we'll see you tomorrow.
White text on a black background reads, "Thank you for watching." Please visit us on Facebook at SFSU Disability, on Twitter at LongmoreInst, or online at longmoreinstitute.sfsu.edu.